Homeless Solutions, Honolulu, Hawaii. I want to say that I know the threatening in that place, but I don't know exactly what is God doing in the constant crying of my head. Well, I didn't have anywhere to go because I did think the crying was excessive, and I let it just be that way for a while until I finally said to the God of my thought and the God of my crying that I thought I wasn't real sure if they go together, if what I think about while I'm crying and that I am crying involuntarily, I'm not sure they really go together because it's true that I'm not really the cause of the crying. I'm not alone. There's somebody named Charles Toe who was living in my keys, and he was the one who recorded on my mind the things that made me cry. It was what he thought about what I said to him, and what it was his question. And then it was nothing for me to cry about because I'm not the one who asked the question and waited for an answer and then decided he was just going to live in my keys. He didn't actually tell me to get out. He told me, now you have to live with the pain and shame for the rest of your life. So that's what I thought about. But he said that in Arizona, but when I was in Hawaii, I was still crying about the same subjects. And I said to the God of myself, but I didn't die of what he said to me. And I didn't die of the crying, and the subject matter was just on my mind every day, repeating itself. And then the crying was ongoing, like all day, all night. The only relief I had was when I was asleep unconscious. I wouldn't say I died of crying, but I would say that was a good place to rest, to be asleep and I wasn't crying while I was sleeping. And after I said that to God, but I didn't die, and I didn't die of it, and I would, because if that's what's really wrong, what am I doing here with the crying? I can't actually function with the crying. I didn't know it was going to stop. It did go on for so long that I didn't know it was ever going to stop. And I thought I shouldn't live with it because it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for the body to be crying like that. The money is appointed by heaven. But I had a joint bank account, but I was crying before that because the joint bank account was pointed at that I'm not just giving him the money. I didn't just give it to him. It's my money. I said he can see it. The bank is wrong that way. The bank is appointed the money to myself. I got a check for to close out a savings account from First Star Bank, used to be First Wisconsin Bank, and they closed out the bank account with a check for myself, but they sent it to an address where there was somebody else there, and that's true that they would, because that's what I said over the phone. But they offered keys for the check because they didn't acknowledge that the bank account was mine. By that, I have an address that's mine. I don't have an address that's mine. It was rented. Not even Charles Toe wasn't collecting the rent. He was seeing that I was charged the rent, and he wasn't charged any rent. Well, the bank didn't come and settle that, and I don't have to tell them that. That's like not announceable. I can't announce that the landlord didn't charge one of the tenants any rent and charged me rent. How does the landlord know who to charge rent to? Well, then why do I have to call and ask for the money? Why didn't it just magically come in the mail? I called to close the bank account because I don't want to use the bank anymore. But I don't want to know Charles Toe anymore. He didn't leave. He didn't take all the money and leave so that I didn't have it. Well, I don't know. Who are you? Because you're announcing yourself, but you don't really make sense. We're starting to say announcement. Announcement when you announce that you're going to do something with yourself, but you didn't do it yet. When Charles Toe turned out to terrorize me for 23 years, and I don't have that kind of time at the beginning. I didn't say, oh, well, we'll see how this goes until I die. No, I don't actually have any sort of trust in Charles Toe that he would be there from moment to moment. He could just walk out and never come back, and I might starve to death. How did he get the money? I don't know, because that's what's wrong with the bank. They gave him a joint bank account, and he's a sex offender. And I don't know any bank that would do that elsewhere. Would give Hans Moser a joint bank account with who? That he lives in my house. It's a joint house account. I don't say he can be there. Well, you have a big problem with permissions, and maybe there was always consumption of banking all along when there was a home invasion in the house, but I'm not God. I wouldn't give them $1. If you're a burglar in my house, I wouldn't give you $1 from a bank. That's like if you were going to rob a bank, you would have to tell the police over the phone. Dial the police over the phone and say, I'm going to rob a bank. I'm going to give you the address and tell you what time I'm going to be there. I'm going to rob the bank. The police are going to be there. What's wrong? You're not supposed to rob the bank. You don't do that kind of crime, but you should see what you did to my life. You try to live in my housing, and you're more chaos than it is to announce yourself to the police that you're going to rob a bank. You're trying to do that every day of my life to superior founder of the formed world. And it's not alive that way for you anymore because I'm deceased right here. I deceased, my leverage is none higher than me deceased, and none higher than he deceased is creating myself, and that's deceased as well. And that's how we are going to, we, none higher than he, above myself, the creation of myself and myself, we are going to be deceased out of your announcements that you alive illegally. You illegally alive yourself that way, and I am the only out that I am is myself deceased here, so that you don't do that anymore. But what are you going to do? Because that's you being at the bottom of creation and needing to sort of see yourself as alive and to be aliving yourself, and you just don't. You don't, because you don't understand that I'm not somebody, I'm not Jesus. I'm not in your prejudice to announce that you're doing a crime to myself. I am the great-grandfather of Jesus at this point. That means I'm the founder of the order, but I didn't actually form Jesus either. I didn't form Jesus for this world's problem. That was against myself ever. So why are you against myself? That doesn't make sense. You owe me everything with an apology that it had nothing to do with you, not that it had nothing to do with me.